Welcome everybody to today's hashtag Meet the Funder session, Respond, Repair and Recover Fund Physical Activity, Health and Wellbeing. Today we are joined by Sarah Shard and Claire Costigan from your trust, formerly Link for Life, to talk to you about how additional Respond, Repair and Recover funds can be allocated to support projects which will impact individuals' physical activity, health and wellbeing. Over to you, Sarah and Claire.
Thank you. Hello. I'm just checking, can everyone see the screen? Yeah. Can you see it, Claire? Yeah. Hi, so welcome to our session and thank you for joining us this morning. As Laura's mentioned, my name's Sarah Shard and Claire Costigan will be doing a presentation. We're from your trust, which is formerly Link for Life. So the funding that we're going to talk about is through the community investment funding, and it is to encourage moving more in everyday life. So the funding is through the local pilot project. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of that project, but it's funded through Sport England. There's 12 localities throughout the UK which have been chosen, and Greater Manchester is one of them. So the local pilot project is running throughout the Greater Manchester area. There's also more information on the Greater Sport GM Moving website. And the approach to this local pilot project is a new approach to build healthier, more active communities. The project's been running for 2 years and is due to run till way into next year as well. The grants that we have, which people can apply for up to £5,000, is to encourage moving more in everyday life. So we do want that focus on moving more, whereas other projects might look at structured exercise in more detail. The focus of the project is through test and learn. So it's an opportunity to trial things that we might not have had the opportunity to do so before. So test and learn means that we can try things and we can learn from what has happened. So it might be that we set up a project and if things go wrong, it doesn't matter. We want to hear about what challenges you've had, what you've learned and how you've adapted to this and how you might work differently in the future, so that we can take these learnings on board and feed them back to ourselves, to others, and also to Sport England. So it's an opportunity for funding for things that you might wanted to try before, but you've not actually had that funding to try for. The good thing about the project is as well, it's flexible and adaptable. So we don't need things to happen immediately. We're quite patient and we want to get things right rather than just rushing into it. We want to have long-term changes to people moving more, and again it's moving more, which might not just be a structured exercise class. It might be more walking, more moving about in daily life, gardening, things like that. And it's a bit of both really. It's a bit of, we want sustainability on the project, but it might be that we've just engaged people in new ways of life, and that'll be taken away from the project, and that'll carry on way past the funding. So some of the creative ideas, and I'm sure Claire might add to this if she's got any other ideas as well, is it might be that you've got a group of walkers and you want to get them now litter picking as well. It might be the consultation side of things, just doing that, a bit of a digging deep about finding out what people want rather than just rushing into things. It could be that you have a group that meet once a week that aren't exercising and you want to try to get them to exercise a bit more. It might be that they're not ready for exercise, so you might want to organise a walk to a museum or somewhere, and the walking element is part of the physical activity. So it's not necessarily being a structured exercise. It could be it's just implementing more physical activity and moving more into daily lives. So the funding again is quite flexible. It's a focus on overcoming that barrier for that individual. So it could be that someone wants to. It could be that they want to go to an exercise class, but they don't necessarily they can't get there, they're struggling with a bus fare or things like that, and it's just having that person-centered approach. It could be for consultation, to help with resources, new activities and facilities, and instructor hire if needed. So we're looking at new creative ideas, and also any funding that you can put in yourself for your own time and things like that, that's appreciated as well. So I'll just pass you over to Claire, who's just going to carry on from where I left off, and then also move on to the benefits as well.
Yeah, in terms of the groups that we are looking at targeting for this funding, it's children to young people 5 to 18, and it has to be outside of the school setting, so it can't be during school time. It's adults 40 to 60 with the risk of long-term conditions, and that can be cardiovascular, it could be cancer, respiratory. These days, I think the majority of people 40 to 60 are at risk of some long-term conditions, so it's quite broad, that really. And also people out of work, or as importantly, people in work but at risk of becoming workless, and that could be because of the physical or mental position that they're in at that stage, or it could be nothing to do with their personal circumstances. It could be obviously the economic environment. We're very much focusing on inclusion, but that doesn't necessarily have to be inclusion in terms of mainstream. It can be a specific funding bid to do with inclusion. Social isolation, as I'm sure you're all aware on this call, has a major impact on well-being across the board. And we're looking on the community focus. So at the moment, we're looking, we have some localities that we've been working with. Now, it's not exclusive to those localities. This funding is open across the whole of Borough of Rochdale, but we have been working with Spotland and Faylinge, Milkstone and Deeplish, and we are starting work in Haywood. And as the programme progresses, then it'll cut across the whole of the borough. But like I said, it's not exclusive to those areas. It is available for funding across the whole of the Borough of Rochdale. I just wanted to add, in terms of any opportunities that we're looking for, we're also looking to develop skills. So really, particularly in terms of people who may be out of work or who may be at risk of being out of work, you know, perhaps we're looking at funding for, I don't know, say if we take swimming lesson qualifications, because obviously I'm coming from the Leisure Trust, you know, that hits 2 of our outcomes, because it gives opportunities for employment, but also that person is imparting physical activity to the young people. So it's kind of looking creatively where we can kind of cross-cut across all these outcomes to maybe bring some positive effect. And some of the other ideas we're looking at is, it's kind of thinking outside the box, as it were. So it may be funding designs on pavements, obviously with consent, you know, putting snakes and ladders down, or a history trip, or hopscotch, so that young people do exercise on their way to work, or even the parents do the exercise on the way to work. It's looking at supporting other expenses as well. So if the barrier is transport costs to a leisure centre, or transport costs to a park for a group, or if the funding is related to barriers around affordability of clothing, say walking boots or swimming costumes, you know, there's nothing off the table. And I think it's very important that you know, you have a kind of an informal initial conversation with us to see where it could be, and where we can local pilot the funding bid to get maximum benefit, and to kind of hit as many of the outcomes as we can do. So over to you, Sarah.
So yeah, just as Claire was saying, Sport England, instead of people applying nationally, they brought these funds to us locally, so that, you know, we've got this relationship with you and we can support you through this process. The idea is that it will be a simple application process, and there's no sort of direct time. We've got funds for the next 12 months, And again, we just don't want to feel like you have to rush into the project. So and that's why it's so it's good in a way. It's quite flexible and adaptable, this project. So the way to apply is we would like it if you probably go away, have a think about any ideas you might have, and then come back to myself or Claire, and we can just have a talk through the project with you before you actually apply. So that would be useful. And then after that, you can become an Action Together member, which is free. And obviously Laura and her team will help you with that. And then complete a very simple application form. And then if you're successful, we'd like the feedback during the project. And it might be that you go away and think this funding is not for you, but we can help you think of, you know, we can work together and look at some new creative ideas that you might think, I want to do this, but I don't know how to do it. You know, just want to emphasize that, you know, this funding, we are here to help you through it. And, you know, we want to be a part of that. We want to feed back to Sport England and tell them all the great work that we're doing in the borough of Rochdale. And then we'd also, if you are funded through any of this project, we would like our logos on the leaflets and for people to know, you know, we're your trust. We are a charity in the community. So we want people to hear about our work we're doing, as well as working in partnership with Action Together and Rochdale Council. And we've just put our details there as well. So we can leave that on the screen for a few minutes if you want to take a photograph. We can put it in the chat or ask Laura to pass them on to you as well. Have you anything to add there at all, Claire? Or
No, that's good, thank you.
Yeah, so the next slide is actually any questions, but I can just leave that out for a minute or two until you can see us all then, and we're not looking at the screen. Is everyone okay with that, or do you want me to leave that up any longer? Right, I'll stop sharing now, and we can put them in the chat if anyone's not caught them.
It's okay, I could send the presentation round afterwards as well, so they have that.
I've just seen a question in the chat. I think regarding who can apply for it, we're just gonna we'll get back to you on that if that's okay. I think we just need to have a chat with Action Together next week, so do still contact us.
Is there any questions or comments you'd like to ask Sarah and Claire at the moment?
Yeah,